The Twin Sisters' Secret. Welcome to the Scary Stories Show, where today we share a frightening tale from the rainy villages of North India. The year is 1983, and what I'm going to tell you is one of the strangest mysteries we've ever talked about on this show. Before we start, remember that this is a made-up story created to entertain you and maybe make you wonder about the line between our world and whatever might exist beyond it. Our story starts in the small village of Chandrore, hidden in the hills below the big mountains. This is a place where thick fog hangs on the mountainsides and old beliefs run as deep as the rivers flowing through the valleys. It was here, among the rice fields and tea gardens, that the Sharma family had their twin daughters, Priya and Diva, in the spring of 1978. The twins looked exactly the same. They had the same dark brown eyes, the same wavy black hair, and the same dimpled smiles. But from when they were very young, their parents, Vikram and Lakshmi Sharma, saw something strange about their daughters. While most twins create their own secret way of talking, Priya and Diva seemed to talk about memories that couldn't possibly be theirs. At first, their parents thought it was just kids using their imagination. After all, children often create big fantasy worlds. But as the twins got close to their 5th birthday in 1983, their stories became more detailed, more consistent, and much more scary. "We didn't die in the water, Mama," Priya told Lakshmi one evening as she put the girls to bed. "The man with the scar took us." Lakshmi stopped moving, her hand still fixing Priya's blanket. "What man? Child, what are you talking about?" "The man who pretended to help," Diva said, her small voice strangely calm in the dark bedroom. "He said he would take us home, but he didn't." Vikram, who had been listening from the doorway, came into the room and sat on the edge of the bed. "These are just bad dreams," he said firmly, though he felt scared. "You are safe here with us." But the twins shook their heads at exactly the same time. "We are Meena and Reena," said Priya, "from Pemal. Our real papa is waiting for us." The names meant nothing to the Sharmas, but the way their daughters said them was very scary. That night after the twins were asleep, Vikram and Lakshmi talked about what they had heard. "Children say strange things," Vikram said, though his voice showed he was worried. "It's just their imagination." "But they've never been to Pemal," Lakshmi whispered. "How would they even know such a place exists?" Pemal was a town about 60 kilometers away from Chandrore. Not so far that people wouldn't know its name, but not so close that 5-year-old children would naturally know about it. And the names Meena and Reena, the Sharmas knew no one by those names. In the days that followed, the twins kept talking about their other life. They talked about a blue house by a lake, parents named Deepak and Sanita, and an older brother called Rohit who played cricket. They talked about a school with a red gate and a teacher who wore glasses with gold frames. These details seemed too specific, too consistent to be just fantasy. Most scary of all, they talked about the day it happened. How they had been walking home from school when a man with a scar on his left cheek said he would give them a ride home during a sudden rainstorm. How he had instead taken them to an old building near the water. How they had tried to run away but couldn't. The twins would never say more about what happened next, only saying, "And then we were born to you." Lakshmi started to worry about her daughter's mental health. She talked to the village doctor who said the twins might be repeating stories they had heard or seen on TV. But the Sharmas didn't own a TV, and they were sure no one in the village had been talking about such things around the children. Vikram, who was more practical than his wife, decided to ask questions about Pemal to end this matter. He told Lakshmi he would visit the nearby town of Nainital where his cousin worked at the local newspaper office to see if there had ever been a story about missing children from Pemal. It was a day's trip by bus, so he planned to stay overnight. "This will put an end to all this talk," he promised Lakshmi. "We'll prove it's just childhood imagination, and then we can help the girls move past it." Lakshmi nodded, though she couldn't shake the feeling of fear that had settled over her since the twins first mentioned their other parents. The morning Vikram was to leave, an unexpected visitor came to the Sharma home. Dr. Anand Kapoor was a psychology professor from Delhi University who had been traveling through the area doing research on rural child care practices. He had heard about the twins from the village doctor who was an old friend of his. "I hope you don't mind me coming here," Dr. Kapoor said after introducing himself. But your daughter's case sounds very interesting from a child development perspective. Identical twins often form special bonds and shared imaginary worlds. Lakshmi didn't want to talk about her children with a stranger, but Vikram saw a chance to get a scientific opinion before his trip to Nainital. "What do you think of it, Dr. Kapoor?" Vikram asked after explaining the situation. "Is this normal behavior for twins?" Dr. Kapoor adjusted his glasses thoughtfully. "It's not unusual for children to create big fantasies, especially twins who often support each other's stories. However, the level of detail and consistency you describe is unusual. Would it be possible for me to talk with your daughters?" Lakshmi didn't want to, but finally agreed on the condition that she would be present for the conversation. The twins were playing in the courtyard, arranging stones in a pattern that, when looked at closely, looked like a rough map. "What are you making?" Dr. Kapoor asked, crouching beside them. "The path to our house in Pimal," Diva answered without looking up. "The real one." "I see," said Dr. Kapoor, his voice neutral. "And where is Pimal?" "By the big water," Priya said, pointing north. "Where the boats go." Dr. Kapoor looked at Lakshmi, who shook her head slightly, confirming that the twins had never been to the lakeside town. "Can you tell me about yourselves?" Dr. Kapoor asked. The twins looked at each other, a silent message passing between them. "We are Priya and Diva now," said Diva. "But before we were Meena and Reena Mather." "And when was that?" "Before you were Priya and Diva. Before we were born again," Priya said matter-of-factly. "After the man with the scar hurt us." Dr. Kapoor kept his face carefully neutral. "Can you tell me more about this man?" The twins suddenly became upset, standing up and moving away from their stone map. "We don't want to talk about him," Diva said firmly. "He's still there," Priya added, her voice dropping to a whisper. "In Pimal. We can feel him." Dr. Kapoor didn't push them. He spent another hour with the family, watching the twins as they played and asking occasional questions about their daily lives and routines. Before leaving, he took Vikram and Lakshmi aside. "I don't want to scare you," he said quietly, "but there are parts of your daughter's story that are quite remarkable for children their age. The consistency of details, the emotional matching, the shared nature of their account. These aren't typical of childhood fantasy." "What are you saying?" Lakshmi asked, her voice tight with worry. Dr. Kapoor hesitated. "I'm not saying anything definite, but I would be interested in checking whether there were indeed two girls named Meena and Reena Mather who went missing from Pimal in recent years." "That's exactly what I plan to find out," Vikram said. "I'm traveling to Nainital tomorrow to speak with my cousin at the newspaper." "May I come with you?" Dr. Kapoor asked. "This case is potentially important for my research, and I can offer my professional opinion." Vikram looked at Lakshmi, who nodded almost invisibly. Having an educated man from Delhi go with Vikram might make his questions seem more legitimate, which otherwise might seem strange. "We leave at first light," Vikram said. That night, after the twins were asleep, a storm came in from the mountains. Rain hit the windows of the Sharma home and thunder rolled through the valley. Lakshmi sat by the twins' bed watching them sleep. When they were sleeping, they looked like any other children, peaceful, innocent, untroubled. It was hard to connect these sweet faces with the disturbing tales they told. As lightning flashed, casting brief blue-white light across the room, both twins suddenly sat up in bed, their eyes wide open but not seeing. "He's coming," they said together, their voices flat and emotionless. "He knows we remember." Lakshmi felt her blood turn to ice. "Who's coming? What do you mean?" But the twins lay back down and returned to sleep as if nothing had happened, leaving Lakshmi shaking in the darkness as the storm raged outside. The next morning, Vikram and Dr. Kapoor left for Nainital. The rain had cleared, leaving the mountain air fresh and cool. Lakshmi waved them goodbye with the twins at her side, trying to hide her worry. "Bring back sweets, Papa," Priya called. "And take the long road," Diva added mysteriously. "Not the one by the cliffs." Vikram laughed and promised to return the following evening with treats for his daughters. As the two men walked toward the bus stop at the edge of the village, Dr. Kapoor looked back at the twins. "Remarkable children," he commented. Their bond seems extremely strong, even for identical twins. Vikram nodded. They've always been like that. One mind in two bodies, my mother says. But this talk of another life, another family, it began only recently. Has there been any trigger you can identify? A book, a story someone told them, perhaps a visitor from Pemal? Vikram shook his head. Nothing. That's what makes it so impossible to explain. The journey to Nainital took most of the day. The bus wound its way along narrow mountain roads, passing through villages and pine forests. Dr. Kapoor used the time to ask Vikram more about the twins, their development and family history. There's nothing unusual in our family, Vikram insisted. No history of mental illness, no tales of reincarnation or past lives. We're ordinary people, Dr. Kapoor. By late afternoon, they reached Nainital, a beautiful town built around a lake shaped like an eye. Nainital, the eye of the goddess. From there, they took a local bus to the newspaper office where Vikram's cousin Deepak worked as an archivist. Deepak was surprised to see Vikram but welcomed him warmly. When Vikram explained the reason for their visit, however, his cousin's expression grew troubled. Meena and Reena Mather, Deepak repeated slowly. Yes, I remember that case. It was about 5 years ago in 1978. Two little girls, twins, went missing from Pemal. Their father came here almost daily for weeks, begging the editor to keep the story in the paper. Vikram felt a chill run through him. What happened to them? Deepak shook his head. They were never found. It was as if they vanished into thin air. The police investigated, of course, but there were no leads, no witnesses. Eventually, the case went cold. Do you have the articles from that time? Dr. Kapoor asked. And perhaps a photograph of the girls? Deepak led them to the archive room, a dimly lit space filled with bound volumes of old newspapers. He pulled out several books from 1978 and began to flip through them. Here, he said finally, pointing to a small article. This was the first report. Vikram leaned forward to read the headline. Twin girls, age 5, missing from Pemal. The article was brief, stating that Meena and Reena Mather had disappeared while walking home from school on September 17, 1978. They were last seen near the lake by a shopkeeper who reported that it had started to rain heavily that afternoon. And here's a follow-up from a week later, Deepak said, turning to another page. This article included a photograph of two small girls in matching dresses, their hair in braids, smiling shyly at the camera. Below the photo were quotes from the girl's father, Deepak Mather, begging for information about his daughters. The description matches, Dr. Kapoor murmured. The names, the location, the circumstances. A man offering help during a rainstorm. This is just a coincidence, Vikram said firmly, though his voice shook. My daughters were born in the spring of 1978. These girls disappeared in September of that year. It's impossible. When exactly were your daughters born? Dr. Kapoor asked. April 12, 1978. Vikram replied without hesitation. Dr. Kapoor looked thoughtful. And the missing girls, how old were they when they disappeared? Deepak checked the article again. 5 years old. So they would have been born in 1973, Dr. Kapoor calculated. Your daughters couldn't have known these girls. They weren't even born when Meena and Reena went missing. Of course not, Vikram said, relief clear in his voice. As I said, it's just a strange coincidence. Children hear things, they create stories. Is there any mention of a suspect? Dr. Kapoor asked Deepak. Someone with a facial scar, perhaps? Deepak flipped through more articles. There was a suspect briefly, a man who had been seen in the area around the time of the disappearance. He was questioned but released due to lack of evidence. It doesn't mention a scar, though. Do you have a name? Rajan Varma. He was a laborer who had been working on a construction site near the school. He left the area shortly after the girls disappeared, which made people suspicious, but the police couldn't find any solid evidence linking him to the case. Dr. Kapoor made notes in a small book he carried. And what about the Mather family? Are they still in Pemal? As far as I know, Deepak said. The father, Deepak Mather, owns a small hotel there. The family was devastated, of course. They had an older son as well, if I remember correctly. Rohit, Vikram whispered, remembering the name his daughters had mentioned. The three men looked at each other in silence, the implications hanging in the air between them. Finally, Vikram spoke. This proves nothing. It's disturbing, yes, but it could still be a coincidence. Perhaps someone in our village knew of this case and spoke of it where the girls could hear. Perhaps, Dr. Kapoor agreed. But wouldn't it be worth visiting Pemal? It's only about 20 kilometers from here. We could speak with the Mather family, see if there are any connections we're missing. Vikram didn't want to. The coincidences were unsettling enough without confronting the family of the missing girls. What would he even say to them? My daughters believe they are your lost children reborn. It seemed cruel, potentially reopening old wounds. I don't think that's appropriate, Vikram said. These people have suffered enough. I understand your concern, Dr. Kapoor replied. But consider this. If there is any truth to your daughter's claims, and I'm not saying there is, it could provide the Mather family with some closure. And if not, we've simply eliminated one possibility. After much debate, Vikram reluctantly agreed to visit Pemal the next day. They found lodging in Nainital for the night, but Vikram barely slept. His mind was filled with the photograph of Meena and Reena Mather, two little girls who would now be about 10 years old if they were still alive, the same age his daughters would one day reach. The thought made him shiver. In the morning, they took a bus to Pemal. The town was smaller than Nainital, built around a man-made lake created during the British colonial period. They asked directions to the Mather family's hotel, a modest establishment near the lakefront called Lakeview Lodge. The hotel was a two-story building painted a faded blue with a small garden in front. Vikram felt a shock of recognition. A blue house by the lake, just as his daughters had described. He hesitated at the entrance, suddenly unsure of this entire venture. We don't have to do this, Dr. Kapoor said quietly, noticing Vikram's discomfort. We can turn back now. But Vikram steeled himself and pushed open the door. The reception area was simple but clean with photographs of the lake and mountains on the walls. Behind the desk sat a woman in her 30s, her face bearing the marks of long-term grief, fine lines around her eyes, a permanent downward turn to her mouth. She looked up as they entered. Namaste, she greeted them. Welcome to Lakeview Lodge. Do you need rooms? Actually, Dr. Kapoor began, we were hoping to speak with Mr. Deepak Mather if he's available. The woman's expression became guarded. May I ask what this is regarding? Dr. Kapoor hesitated and Vikram stepped forward. My name is Vikram Sharma. This is Dr. Kapoor from Delhi University. We've come across some information that might be related to your family, and we wanted to discuss it with Mr. Mather personally. The woman, who must be Sunita Mather, Vikram realized, studied them for a long moment before nodding slightly. My husband is in the back checking inventory. I'll get him for you. Please have a seat. She gestured to a small sitting area and disappeared through a door behind the reception desk. Vikram and Dr. Kapoor sat in uncomfortable silence, both questioning the wisdom of their visit. A few minutes later, a man entered from the same door. Deepak Mather looked older than his years, his hair graying at the temples, deep shadows beneath his eyes. He approached them with a tired expression. My wife says you have information about our family, he said without introduction. What kind of information? Dr. Kapoor took the lead, explaining that he was a psychologist studying unusual cases of childhood memory and behavior. He spoke of the Sharma twins in general terms, mentioning their claims of memories that seemed to match details about the Mather family and their missing daughters. As he spoke, Deepak Mather's expression changed from suspicion to disbelief to a terrible, fragile hope. When Dr. Kapoor finished, Mather sat heavily in a chair across from them. This is some kind of cruel joke, he said, his voice breaking. Who put you up to this? We've had hoaxes before. People claiming to have seen the girls, people demanding money for information. We can't go through that again. This is not a hoax, Mr. Mather, Vikram said earnestly. I wish it were that simple. My daughters have been telling these stories for months now with no prompting from anyone. They've never been to Pemal, Never heard of your family as far as we know. And yet they speak of things they couldn't possibly know. Your son Rohit who plays cricket. A teacher with golden-framed glasses. Mather's face went pale. Miss Chula, he whispered. Their kindergarten teacher. She always wore gold-rimmed glasses. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Finally, Mather spoke again, his voice barely audible. What else do they say? Your daughters. Vikram hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. They say they were walking home from school when it started raining. A man with a scar on his cheek offered to help them, but instead took them somewhere else. They don't say much about what happened after that. Mather closed his eyes, his hands clenched into fists on his knees. The police suspected a local laborer, but they could never prove anything. There was never any evidence of what happened to them. I'm so sorry, Vikram said, regretting the pain his words were causing. I shouldn't have come. This was a mistake. Mather opened his eyes, a fierce intensity in his gaze. No, I want to meet these children of yours. I need to see them for myself. That's not possible right now, Dr. Kapoor interjected. They're in Chandrore with their mother. It would be a significant journey. Then I'll go to Chandrore, Mather said firmly. I have spent 5 years searching for any trace of my daughters. If there's even the slightest chance. Mr. Mather, Dr. Kapoor said gently, I must caution you. The scientific consensus does not support the concept of reincarnation. What we're dealing with here is likely a case of cryptomnesia, subconscious acquisition of information that is later recalled without awareness of its source. These children are not your daughters reborn. With all due respect, Dr. Kapoor, I don't care about your scientific consensus, Mather replied. I care about finding out what happened to my children. If these twins know something, anything that could help us understand what happened that day, I need to hear it. Vikram felt torn. He had come seeking answers, not to give false hope to a grieving father. Yet he couldn't deny the uncanny accuracy of his daughter's memories. Perhaps there's a compromise, he suggested. Mr. Mather, would you be willing to tell us specific details about your daughters? Things that weren't published in the newspapers? If my children know these things too, it would be significant. Mather nodded slowly. What do you want to know? Did your daughters have any distinguishing marks? Birthmarks? Scars? Meena had a small birthmark shaped like a crescent moon behind her right ear, Mather said. Reena had none. Vikram felt a chill run through him. Priya, my daughter, has the same birthmark in the same place. Dr. Kapoor leaned forward. That could be a coincidence. Many children have birthmarks. Ask him something else, Vikram insisted. Something only he would know about his daughters. Dr. Kapoor thought for a moment. Mr. Mather, did your daughters have any unusual habits or preferences? Favorite foods perhaps? Or games they liked to play? A ghost of a smile touched Mather's lips. They were obsessed with collecting colored stones. They had a whole collection they kept in a tin box under their bed. And they refused to eat ladyfinger, what you call okra. They said it made their teeth feel funny. Vikram sat back, his face pale. My daughters collect stones. They have a collection hidden under a loose floorboard in their room. And they both hate okra for exactly that reason. Even Dr. Kapoor looked shaken now. These could still be coincidences, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. Children often dislike certain vegetables, and collecting stones is a common pastime for young girls in rural areas. One more test, Mather said, rising from his chair. Wait here. He disappeared through the door behind the reception desk and returned a few minutes later with a photograph album. He sat between Vikram and Dr. Kapoor and opened the album to a page showing a family portrait: Mather, his wife, a boy of about 10, and the twin girls from the newspaper photograph. This was taken 3 months before they disappeared, Mather said, his finger trembling slightly as it hovered over the image of his lost daughters. Now you say your twins claim to be Meena and Reena. Which is which? Meena was the elder by 7 minutes, more outspoken. Reena was quieter, more thoughtful. Vikram studied the photograph. The twins in the image were indeed identical at first glance. But as he looked closer, He could see subtle differences in their expressions. One smiled more broadly, sitting slightly forward, while the other had a more reserved demeanor. Priya is the more assertive one, Vikram said slowly. She always takes the lead. Diva is gentler, more introspective. If I had to guess, Priya would be Meena and Diva would be Reena. Mather's breath caught. Yes, he whispered. That's right. Dr. Kapoor had been silent, observing this exchange with a mixture of scientific curiosity and growing unease. Now he spoke. Mr. Mather, you mentioned a suspect, Rajan Varma. Was he ever described as having a facial scar? Mather tensed. Not in the official reports, but my son Rohit told us later that he had seen a man hanging around the school a few days before the girls disappeared. He remembered him because of a scar on his left cheek. The police dismissed it, said Rohit was just a child, his memory unreliable. And what became of this man Varma? He left Pemal shortly after the investigation. The police traced him to Delhi initially but then lost track of him. That was years ago. The three men sat in heavy silence, each lost in his own thoughts. Finally, Vikram spoke. Mr. Mather, I understand your desire to meet my daughters, but I have to consider their well-being. This situation is unprecedented. I need time to think about what's best for them. Mather nodded, his expression a complex mixture of disappointment and understanding. Of course, you are their father now, but please don't shut the door on this entirely. Here. He took out a business card for the hotel and wrote a number on the back. This is my personal telephone. Call me when you've made a decision. Vikram accepted the card, tucking it into his shirt pocket. I will. You have my word. As they prepared to leave, Mather had one final question. Your daughters. What do they look like now? Vikram hesitated, then reached into his wallet and removed a small photograph of the twins, taken on their last birthday. He handed it to Mather, who stared at it for a long moment, his hands trembling slightly. They would be about this age now, he said softly, more to himself than to Vikram or Dr. Kapoor, if they had lived. Mr. Mather, Dr. Kapoor said gently, whatever the explanation for these similarities, I urge you to approach this situation with caution. The human mind seeks patterns, connections, especially in times of grief. It's easy to see what we want to see. Mather returned the photograph to Vikram. 5 years ago, Dr. Kapoor, I would have agreed with you. I was a practical man, a businessman. I believed in what I could see and touch. But when you lose your children the way we lost ours, without a trace, without closure, you become open to possibilities you would have once dismissed. The journey back to Nainital was quiet. Both men were wrapped in their own thoughts. They caught the last bus to Chandrore, arriving late in the evening. Lakshmi was waiting anxiously, the twins already asleep. What did you find out? She asked as soon as they were alone. Vikram told her everything, the newspaper articles, the visit to the Mather family, the uncanny similarities between their daughter's memories and the facts of the case. This is madness, Lakshmi whispered when he had finished. You can't seriously believe our daughters are these reincarnated children. I don't know what to believe anymore, Vikram admitted. The coincidences are too numerous, too specific. They're coincidences nonetheless, Lakshmi insisted. Our daughters were born before those girls disappeared. It's chronologically impossible. Yes, but... Vikram hesitated, reluctant to voice the thought that had been nagging at him. What if their birth certificates are wrong? Lakshmi stared at him. What are you suggesting? The midwife who delivered them, old Mrs. Devi. She was nearly blind, remember? And there was that confusion about the date. She wrote April 12th, but you were certain it was April 21st. That's ridiculous. We would know if our children weren't really ours. But a seed of doubt had been planted, and Vikram could see it taking root in Lakshmi's mind as well. The twins had always been unusually mature for their age, their speech more advanced than other children in the village. And there was something about their eyes, an old wisdom that sometimes shone through, especially when they spoke of their other life. What did this Dr. Kapoor say? Lakshmi asked finally. He believes there must be a rational explanation. Perhaps the twins overheard someone discussing the case. Or there's some connection between our village and Pemal that we're not aware of. And the Mather family? What do they want? The father wants to meet the girls. I told him I needed time to consider it. Lakshmi was quiet for a long moment. And what do you think we should do? Vikram sighed heavily. I don't know. Part of me wants to dismiss this whole thing as nonsense. But another part is afraid there might be some truth to it. And what if there is truth to it? Lakshmi finished for him. They agreed to sleep on it, though neither expected to rest well. As they prepared for bed, Vikram realized he had forgotten to check on the twins. He walked quietly to their room and eased the door open. The twins were awake, sitting up in bed, their faces pale in the moonlight streaming through the window. They showed no surprise at seeing him. Did you meet our other papa? Priya asked softly. Vikram felt his heart skip a beat. How did you know where I went? We always know, Diva said, her voice eerily adult. We remember everything now. What do you remember? Vikram asked, entering the room and sitting on the edge of their bed. The twins exchanged a glance, that silent communication passing between them. The man with the scar, Priya began. His name was Rajan. He worked at the building site near our school. He said our brother had been hurt, Diva continued, that he would take us to him, but he took us to the old boathouse instead. Vikram felt a chill run down his spine. None of this had been mentioned in the newspaper articles. What happened at the boathouse? He asked, though part of him didn't want to know. The twins' faces clouded. Bad things, Priya whispered. He hurt us. And then the water. You drowned? Vikram asked, his voice barely audible. Both girls nodded solemnly. But we didn't stay in the dark place, Diva said. We came to be with you and Mama. You're our parents now. Vikram didn't know what to say. Their words went against everything he believed about life and death, about the nature of existence itself. And yet, sitting here with these strange, wise children who called him father, he couldn't dismiss their claims entirely. Are you angry with us? Priya asked, misunderstanding his silence. For remembering? No, Vikram said quickly, gathering both girls into his arms. No, I'm not angry. I don't understand what's happening. We don't either, Diva admitted. We just know we're supposed to go back to help find him. Find who? Rajan, Priya said, her voice dropping to a whisper. He's still hurting children. We can feel it. Vikram held his daughters tighter, a protective instinct surging through him. Whatever the truth of their claims, whatever strange phenomenon might be at work here, these were his children. He had raised them, loved them, watched them grow. In every way that mattered, they were his and Lakshmi's. You don't have to go back, he said firmly. You're safe here with us. But the twins shook their heads in that perfect synchronization that had always unnerved him slightly. We have to, Priya insisted, or more children will disappear. That night, Vikram barely slept. He lay awake beside Lakshmi, turning over the events of the past few days in his mind. The trip to Nainital, the discovery of the real Meena and Reena Mather, the uncanny knowledge his daughters possessed, and now their insistence that they needed to go back to find the man who had allegedly killed them in their previous life. It was madness, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something significant happening here, something beyond his understanding. In the morning, he shared the twins' latest revelations with Lakshmi and Dr. Kapoor, who had stayed in the village to observe the children further. This is most unusual, Dr. Kapoor mused. The details about the boathouse were never published, and this claim about the suspect still being active. It's troubling. It's the product of an overactive imagination, Lakshmi insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. Children hear things, they create stories. Perhaps, Dr. Kapoor conceded. But I believe we should take this seriously enough to alert the authorities in Pemal. If there is even a remote possibility that a child predator is active in the area. And what would we tell them? Vikram asked. My daughters who claim to be reincarnations of two murdered girls say the killer is still at large? They'd think we were insane. Not necessarily, Dr. Kapoor said. We could approach it differently. Say we've received information about a man named Rajan Varma who may be connected to the old case. The police can decide whether it's worth investigating. After much discussion, they agreed that Dr. Kapoor would return to Pimal to speak with the police while Vikram and Lakshmi would stay with the twins. They also decided, reluctantly, to allow Deepak Mathur to visit Chandraur to meet the girls. It seemed the least they could do for a father who had spent 5 years searching for his lost children. Dr. Kapoor departed that afternoon, promising to telephone from Pimal with any news. The twins watched him go with solemn expressions. He doesn't believe us, Diva said matter-of-factly. But he will. The following day brought an unexpected development. A telegram arrived for Vikram from Dr. Kapoor. Information about Rajan Varma confirmed. Stop. Police reopening investigation. Stop. Mathur's arriving tomorrow. Stop. Exercise caution. Stop. Vikram read the telegram several times, trying to understand its meaning. What information had been confirmed, and why the warning to exercise caution. He shared the telegram with Lakshmi, who seemed equally puzzled. What does he mean, exercise caution? Caution about what? Before Vikram could respond, the twins appeared in the doorway of the kitchen, their expressions grave. He knows, Priya said. Rajan knows people are looking for him again. How could he know that? Vikram asked, momentarily forgetting the impossibility of his daughters having such knowledge. Because he's close, Diva replied. He never went far away. Lakshmi moved to gather the twins in her arms. Enough of this talk. These are just stories. You're safe here with us. But that night, as a storm gathered over the mountains, Vikram found himself checking the locks on the doors and windows, a sense of unease settling over him like the mist that shrouded the valley. The next day dawned clear and bright, the storm having passed in the night. The Mathurs were expected to arrive on the afternoon bus from Nainital. Vikram had arranged for them to stay in the small guest house at the edge of the village, feeling it would be too strange to have them in the family home. As the hour of their arrival approached, Lakshmi dressed the twins in their best clothes, matching blue frocks with white collars. The girls submitted to this preparation with unusual solemnity. Remember, Lakshmi told them as she brushed their hair. These people are not your parents. They lost their daughters a long time ago and they are very sad. Be kind to them, but don't say things that will make them sadder. The twins nodded, their eyes meeting in that silent communication. We understand, Mama, Priya said. We know who our real parents are now. The Mathurs arrived punctually, accompanied by Dr. Kapoor. Deepak Mathur looked much as he had in Pimal, but his wife Sunnita seemed even more fragile in person, her eyes darting nervously as she took in the Sharma home. Introductions were made, tea was served, and an awkward conversation ensued with Dr. Kapoor attempting to mediate between the two families. The twins sat quietly on a bench by the window, observing the adults with unchildlike intensity. Finally, Deepak Mathur could contain himself no longer. May I speak with your daughters? He asked Vikram. Vikram glanced at Lakshmi, who nodded slightly. Of course, he said. Priya, Diva, come here, please. The twins approached the Mathurs, standing before them with perfect composure. There was a moment of profound silence as Deepak and Sunnita Mathur stared at the children, searching their faces for any hint of their lost daughters. Hello, Deepak said finally, his voice thick with emotion. My name is Deepak Mathur. This is my wife, Sunnita. We know, Priya said simply. You're our other papa and mama. Sunnita let out a small gasp, her hand flying to her mouth. Deepak leaned forward, his eyes intense. If you know us, then tell us something only Meena and Reena would know. The twins exchanged a glance. The night before we disappeared, Diva began. You promised to take us to Delhi for the Republic Day parade if we got good marks in school. And Mama gave us each a gold bangle for our birthday, Priya added. She said we could wear them on special days only. Sunnita began to weep silently, her shoulders shaking. Deepak remained composed, though his eyes glistened with unshed tears. And what about your brother? What was his name? Rohit, both twins said in unison. He used to let us play with his cricket bat when Papa wasn't looking. Deepak nodded slowly, as if confirming something to himself. And the day you disappeared, what happened? The twins' expressions clouded. It was raining, Priya said softly. We were walking home from school. Miss Challa had kept us late to practice for the Independence Day program. A man came in a blue car, Diva continued. He said Rohit had fallen off his bicycle and was hurt. He said he would take us to him. We knew we shouldn't go with strangers, Priya said, her voice dropping to a whisper. But we were worried about Rohit. The man had a scar. Diva touched her left cheek. Here, like a lightning bolt. Deepak was leaning forward intently, hanging on every word. And then, he prompted. He took us to the old boathouse, Priya said. The one by the far shore where nobody goes anymore. He tied our hands. Diva's small fingers rubbed at her wrists as if feeling phantom bonds. He said if we were quiet, he wouldn't hurt us, but he was lying. Lakshmi moved to intervene, distressed by the turn the conversation had taken. I think that's enough. But Deepak held up a hand, his expression pleading. Please, we've waited 5 years to know what happened to our daughters. Lakshmi looked to Vikram, who nodded reluctantly. The twins continued their grim narrative. He hurt us, Priya said simply. And then when it was dark, he took us out on the lake in a small boat. We were still alive, Diva added, her voice eerily detached. But we couldn't move or speak. He put stones in our pockets and dropped us in the deep water. That's where our old bodies are, Priya concluded. In the deep part of the lake, near the old stone marker. A heavy silence fell over the room. Sunnita Mather was weeping openly now, her face buried in her hands. Deepak sat rigid, his face ashen. Dr. Kapoor was scribbling notes furiously while Vikram and Lakshmi exchanged horrified glances. How can they know these things? Lakshmi whispered. The boathouse, the blue car. None of this was in the newspapers. There's more, Dr. Kapoor said, looking up from his notes. I spoke with the police in Pimal yesterday. They've been investigating reports of a man matching Rajan Varma's description seen in the area recently. 3 children have gone missing from surrounding villages in the past year. The room fell silent. Even the twins, who had been speaking with such calm certainty, now looked troubled. He's still there, Priya whispered. We told you. The police want to question the girls, Dr. Kapoor continued. They believe the twins might have information that could help with the current investigation. Absolutely not, Vikram said firmly. I won't have my daughters subjected to police questioning based on these impossible claims. But if they're right, Deepak Mather said, his voice hoarse with emotion, if this man is still out there, still taking children, then the police can catch him without involving my daughters, Vikram replied. They're just children, Mr. Mather. I won't put them through any more of this. The twins looked at each other, that silent communication passing between them again. We have to help, Diva said quietly. It's why we came back. To stop him from hurting more children, Priya added. Lakshmi knelt before the twins, taking their small hands in hers. You don't have to do anything, my darlings. You're safe here with us. You don't have to remember those terrible things anymore. But the twins shook their heads with that unsettling synchronization. We remember because we have to, Priya said. Until he's caught, we'll always remember. Dr. Kapoor cleared his throat. Perhaps there's a compromise. The police could speak with the children here in familiar surroundings with their parents present. No formal questioning, just a conversation. Vikram looked at Lakshmi, who was studying the twins' faces. There was something in their expressions, a determination, a sense of purpose that seemed far too mature for 5-year-old children. What do you think? Lakshmi asked the twins. Do you want to talk to the police? The twins nodded solemnly. We have to, Diva said. For the other children. For Meena and Reena too, Priya added, and for a moment, Vikram could have sworn he heard an echo of other voices, older voices in his daughter's words. The next morning brought Inspector Raj Singh from the Pemal police station. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a gentle manner that immediately put the twins at ease. Dr. Kapoor had briefed him on the unusual circumstances, and to his credit, Inspector Singh approached the situation with an open mind. "Hello, Priya and Diva," he said, sitting cross-legged on the floor to be at their eye level. "I'm Inspector Singh. I understand you might know something about some missing children." The twins looked at each other, then at their parents, who nodded encouragingly. "We know about the man with the scar," Priya said quietly. "Rajan Varma." Inspector Singh's expression grew serious. "Can you tell me about him?" "He takes children when it rains," Diva said. "He tells them their brother or sister is hurt and needs help. He has a blue car," Priya continued, "old with rust on the doors. And he lives in a house near the water," Diva added, "with broken windows and dead fish smell." Inspector Singh was taking careful notes. "Have you seen this house?" The twins shook their heads. "We remember it," Priya said simply. "From before," Diva added. The inspector spent an hour with the twins, gently coaxing details from them. They described the boathouse where they claimed to have been taken, the location of the bodies in the lake, and most importantly, a description of where Rajan Varma was now hiding. According to the twins, he was living in an abandoned fishing hut on the eastern shore of the lake, surviving by stealing food from nearby villages and watching for opportunities to take more children. "He knows the police are looking for him again," Priya said as the interview concluded. "But he thinks he's safe because nobody believes the stories about us." Inspector Singh closed his notebook and stood up. "Thank you, girls. You've been very helpful." As he prepared to leave, Deepak Mathur approached him. "Inspector, about my daughters, their bodies." Singh nodded gravely. "If the information these children have provided proves accurate, we'll organize a search of the lake. You deserve to lay your daughters to rest properly." After the inspector left, the house fell into an uneasy quiet. The twins went to play in the garden, but their games seemed subdued, lacking the carefree nature of childhood. Vikram watched them through the window, these strange children who called him father. "What have we done?" Lakshmi whispered, coming to stand beside him. "What if we're wrong? What if this is all just elaborate fantasy and we've sent the police on a wild chase? And what if we're right?" Vikram replied, "What if our daughters really are what they claim to be?" The answer came 2 days later. Inspector Singh returned to Chandrore with news that would change everything. They had found Rajan Varma exactly where the twins said he would be, in the abandoned fishing hut on the eastern shore. When confronted, he had confessed not only to the murders of Meena and Reena Mathur 5 years earlier, but to the recent disappearances of 3 other children. "The bodies were exactly where your daughters said they would be," Singh told the assembled families. "At the bottom of the lake, near the old stone marker. The man had weighted them down with stones, just as the children described." Sunnita Mathur collapsed into her husband's arms, finally having the closure she had sought for so long. Deepak wept openly, his grief now mixed with a strange sort of relief. "And the other children?" Dr. Kapoor asked. "Alive," Singh replied, "hidden in a cave system behind the hut. Traumatized, but alive. We might never have found them without the information your daughters provided." The twins, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped forward. "Can we see him?" Priya asked. "Rajan, why would you want to do that?" Inspector Singh asked, puzzled. "To make sure he knows," Diva replied. "That Meena and Reena won't be forgotten." Singh looked uncertain, but Deepak Mathur stepped forward. "Please," he said, "if my daughters, if these children need to see him, then let them." The confrontation took place at the Pemal police station. Rajan Varma sat in a cell, a broken man with hollow eyes and the distinctive scar on his left cheek. When the twins appeared before his cell, his face went white. "It's not possible," he whispered. "You're dead. I killed you." "We know," Priya said calmly, "but we came back to make sure you couldn't hurt anyone else," Diva added. Varma began to scream then, ranting about ghosts and vengeance, But the twins simply watched him with those unnaturally wise eyes until the guards led him away. Outside the police station, Deepak Mathur knelt before the twins. "Thank you," he said simply, "for coming back, for helping us find the truth." The twins smiled then, and for a moment they looked like any other children. "We're not Meena and Reena anymore," Priya said gently. "We're Priya and Deva Sharma. But we'll always remember them. And we'll make sure you remember them too," Deva added. The formal funeral for Meena and Reena Mathur took place a week later beside the lake in Pemal. The entire village attended, along with the Sharma family. As the small caskets were lowered into the ground, the twins stood hand in hand, their faces peaceful for the first time since the strange journey had begun. That night, back in Chandrore, Vikram found the twins in their room, packing their collection of colored stones into a small box. "What are you doing?" he asked. "We don't need these anymore," Priya said. "Meena and Reena collected them. We're different now." "Are you sad?" Vikram asked, sitting on their bed. The twins considered this seriously. "A little," Deva admitted. "It's hard to forget being someone else. But we're happy to be your daughters," Priya added quickly. "We chose you, remember?" Vikram gathered them into his arms. "And we choose you too, every day." As the weeks passed, the twins gradually stopped speaking of their previous lives. They remained unusually mature and perceptive for their age, but they seemed to settle more fully into being simply Priya and Deva Sharma. The strange, otherworldly quality that had marked them began to fade, replaced by the normal brightness of childhood. Dr. Kapoor published a paper about the case, carefully avoiding names and specific locations. The scientific community remained skeptical, but he had witnessed enough to question his own rigid beliefs about the nature of consciousness and memory. The Mathur family found peace at last. Deepak and Sanita often visited Chandrore, developing a close friendship with the Sharmas. They never spoke of the twins as reincarnations of their lost daughters, but there was an understanding between the families, a recognition of the strange miracle that had brought them together. Years later, when Priya and Deva were grown women with children of their own, they would sometimes speak quietly of those early memories that seemed to belong to other lives. They worked together as social workers, dedicating their lives to protecting children from harm. And sometimes, on rainy days when the mist clung to the mountains around Chandrore, local people would tell stories of the twin girls who came back from the dead to bring justice to those who had wronged them. Whether true or not, the stories served their purpose. Children were more careful about strangers, parents more protective, and the memory of Meena and Reena Mathur lived on in the whispered warnings passed from generation to generation. But that, as they say, is another story entirely. In the village of Chandrore, the Sharma family lived quietly and happily, cherishing the two remarkable daughters who had come to them in such an extraordinary way. And if sometimes Vikram and Lakshmi wondered about the true nature of what they had witnessed, they kept those thoughts to themselves, content in the knowledge that love transcends all understanding, even the boundaries between one life and the next. The twins grew up normal and healthy, but they never forgot the lesson they had learned so young, that some bonds are stronger than death, and that justice, like love, finds a way to prevail in the end. And in the deep waters of the lake in Pemal, where two small graves now rested in peace, the local fishermen reported that the water was clearer than it had been in years, and the fish more plentiful. Some said it was just the natural cycle of the lake, but others believed it was something more, a sign that old wrongs had been made right, and troubled spirits had finally found their rest. The story of the twins of Chandrore became legend, passed down through generations as a reminder that the bonds of love and family can transcend even the greatest mysteries of life and death. And though the truth of what really happened may never be fully understood, the legacy of that strange and wonderful year lived on in the hearts of all who witnessed it, a testament to the power of hope, love, and the unbreakable bonds that connect us all.